We're talking with Dr. Gary Richter. Why did you even become a veterinarian? Let's just get that out of the way. You could have been a human cardiologist. You could have been a truck driver. What was it that you picked veterinary medicine?
You know what? I think it was sort of a combination of factors in my life. I've always been an animal person. I was that kid where if when I was a kid, if you put me in a room full of people and there was a dog, I would go hang out with the dog. The irony is that, all these decades later, I'm kind of still that person. Put me in a room full of people I don't know and I'll go hang out with the dog. So I've always had that connection with animals, and I've always been sort of a fan of science and biology and the natural world and how things work, the order of nature, if you will. So it just sort of felt like a natural progression for me to go in this direction.
Well, I'm glad you followed your gut, and I hope your gut is healthy. That's what I'm hoping.
Thank you.
Let's get into nutrition, and that can be sometimes a little controversial topic. I say, people, when you talk about pets and food, it's almost like you're talking religion and politics at the same time. There might be a food fight, but we've got a guy with a DVM after his name. We have a gentleman here that operates Ultimate Pet Nutrition, and I humbly have written the pet nutrition column for Catster and Dogster for the past 8 years. So I get to learn a lot from people like yourself. Let's get into kibble. Kibble for 200, Dr. Richter, your take.
Do we have to get into kibble? Sure. So here, let me just sort of I want to make it fairly simple. I think when you think about nutrition, regardless of whether it's a person or an animal, the best way to think about it is if you think about the body as a biological machine. That machine evolved to thrive on certain nutrients. So, clearly a dog's optimal spectrum of nutrients is different than a cat, is different than a person, but we all have an optimal spectrum of nutrients that our biological machines are made to thrive on. No biological machine evolved to thrive on food that came out of a bag or a can. So I think that is something that I hope that everybody can agree on. And when you look at kibble or canned food, there is no way around the fact that what you're talking about is highly processed food. If you're going to take fresh food ingredients and you are going to make them shelf stable for 2+ years, you have to do stuff to that food. And generally speaking, that stuff is not to the benefit of the person or the animal that's eating that food. The reality is dry food and canned food exist for one reason, and that reason is our convenience. It was never about what's best for the animal. No matter what the pet food companies tell you, that's never what it's been about. It's always been about what's convenient and affordable. So the bottom line is we all know for our own health and wellness, the more fresh whole foods we're eating and the less processed food, the better. That is common sense for everybody. But for some reason, most people, and it pains me to say this, most veterinarians will recommend that you feed your dog dry food or canned food, highly processed food that comes with all of the baggage, all of the potentially inflammatory and cancer-causing compounds that we know occur in processed food, and in many cases are occurring in dramatically higher levels than most people are eating on a day-to-day basis. And yet that's what we're asking our dogs to eat every day. And then everybody scratches their head down the road and wonders why all these dogs are getting cancer and chronic inflammatory disease and are aging before their time.
And in fairness to the veterinarians, because the vet schools, you're packed with a lot of curriculum. And I wish they would spend more time on nutrition. It's people like yourself that have taken an integrative, holistic approach that have gone back and done more schooling that are really learning and being able to share the benefits of whole food being served to our pets. And it's economics too. There's some folks that don't have a big paycheck. They haven't won that lottery. So is there some things, let's go for the people that may not be wealthy. Is there some little things you can do that could up the quality and the digestibility of food for their dogs? Is there toppers?
I mean, there absolutely is. And I fully recognize the fact that feeding a dog a fresh whole food diet can be financially challenging. especially if you have a large dog or more than one
Yeah.
large dog. It can be daunting. So I think step one is realize that, again, like look at it through the lens of us as people. I do my best to eat as much fresh, healthy food as I can. That doesn't mean that every single meal I eat is perfectly balanced, fresh food. And it may be that I go out and, eat, I'm going to use the term garbage food from time to time. Just because I eat junk food from time to time does not mean that I should throw out the rest of my diet and say, oh, what's the difference? So
Right.
we need to look at that with our pets as well. The bottom line is feed your pet as much fresh whole food as you can and feed the rest the highest quality, commercially made, canned or kibble that you can. So it's, the reality here is that whatever you're going to do for your pet, whether it's nutrition or lifestyle or supplements or whatever you're going to do, it has to be sustainable for you to do it. If it's something
Right.
that you're going to do for a week and then give up because it's too hard or too expensive or too problematic, we're not actually doing your pets any favors. So what we have to do is we have to get creative and figure out what works in your real world. So if that means feed some fresh food and some canned or kibble, then so be it. We do, we all have to live in reality and do what we can. And I've kind of gone through this in the books, giving
Yes.
people some strategies on how you can do this
like that.
to your pet's best benefit.
And in my household, we got married. We brought the families together, the four-leggers. So we have 4 cats, 2 dogs. We call it the Furry Brady Bunch. How's that? And we include sodium-free bone broth as a topper for all our pets. And sometimes we make it and sometimes we get it, but we read the label carefully. So that is not expensive, but what's the Benny for that?
Yeah, I mean, bone broth can be incredibly healthy. It's got great collagen. It's got great nutrients in there. Like you say, it's not particularly expensive. The one caveat I would throw out there as it pertains to bone broth is it is really important that it's organic.
Okay.
And organic is always nice, but bone broth in particular, and the reason is you may be familiar with the herbicide glyphosate or Roundup.
Yep,
So
I've heard of it.
glyphosate is widely used in agriculture to spray crops. And when animals eat these crops, that glyphosate has a tendency to get deposited in the bones. So it concentrates in those areas. We know glyphosate is toxic. We know it actually causes cancer in people. So if you're going to take bones from conventionally raised animals and then boil them and leach out all of those nutrients, you're also potentially leaching out a whole bunch of glyphosate, which can be really problematic. So if you use organic bone broth, you shouldn't have that problem. I like organic in general, but the bone broth is one particular thing that you really want to focus on because of that issue.